Time to rock and roll, kids. It's time for the SMC Journal podcast, the show that's all about software engineering in today's modern IT world. We talk about testing, tuning, security, AI, and not the least of which is observability. I'm Scott Moore, your host. Thank you for joining me. And observability is our topic today, specifically open source observability. Many of you know about the observability platforms that are out there today. We've got Dynatrace, Datadog, New Relic, Splunk, and a host of other ones. And many big enterprises are using these. And some people are even complaining of tool sprawl because they're using so many different products to try to capture all this data. It adds up. Is there a cost-effective alternative, or is there an open source alternative to observability platforms? Yes, there is. And we're going to talk about that today. Before we get started with that, let's talk about the sponsors that make this show possible for you to watch. This podcast is sponsored by Saltworks Security. For almost 10 years, Saltworks has delivered world-class application security services and products designed to help enterprises secure their applications from policy to production in an ever-changing security landscape. They're the makers of SaltMiner, an application security management platform designed by security professionals for security professionals. SaltMiner aggregates and normalizes the issues found by many different solutions and enriches that data with business context. SaltMiner gives team members from the C-suite, security, and development teams the ability to manage their application security program through customizable views. The Saltworks SaltMiner Community Edition is a free penetration testing management and delivery application. It provides teams with custom reporting for potentially thousands of end users, red team support, and the ability to manage new and retesting of engagements. SaltMiner Community Edition also allows teams to enforce both testing methodologies and custom vulnerability databases for consistency and engagement delivery. Check them out today at saltworks.io. Do you need unbreakable network connectivity? West Networks can help. They're a leading provider of peplink-based SD-WAN solutions, and they can help you achieve unbreakable connectivity by utilizing Peplink's SpeedFusion bandwidth bonding technology. Since 2012, West Networks has been assisting those in the mobile health services space by providing communities with access to life-saving technology. They also work with mobile command field units like first responders and news agencies, delivering faster and reliable access to mission-critical information all the time. Whether you're an IT professional who needs to work from anywhere or a full-time vacationing traveler in the RV community, West Networks can help you stay connected all the time from anywhere. Large enterprises can save up to 83% off cost while expanding communications and reliability beyond a single carrier with West Networks Peplink-based SD-WAN solutions. They can help you replace expensive MPLS connections with SpeedFusion's site-to-site unbreakable VPN technology. So no matter what your needs are, West Networks can help you achieve unbreakable connectivity. Contact them today to learn more. Thank you so much, sponsors. We really appreciate your support of this program. So, open source observability. I found out about this company a little while ago, and I've been following them ever since, and they recently got some funding. So I wanted to have their CEO on the show to talk about the platform that they've created, how it came about, because I want to know personally, and where they're actually going with this, because they are making some waves in the observability community these days. So let's actually talk about Signoz today. Hello, Pranay. Welcome to the SMC Journal podcast. It's great to have you on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me today. Excited.
Awesome. I have been following Signoz since the first, probably over a year, maybe a year and a half, when I saw some first postings out there on LinkedIn. It was this open source observability project. And then more recently, I saw that there was an announcement that you had gotten a round of funds to help just blast this thing off and the rocket ship off into the space. And so it must be very exciting to be where you're at. I'd like for you to talk about yourself and talk about how this whole project for Signoz kind of came about.
Yeah, sure. And thanks for noticing our announcement. I am Pranay. I'm one of the co-founders at Signoz. Primarily work into the product side. As a background, I am an engineer by background, worked in coding, worked for a couple of years as a machine learning engineer, the time when it was not cool. And and yeah, post that I worked as a product manager at Microsoft, and after that uh, was working as a lead in a product company, and that's where I saw this problem of observability. So the problem which we're seeing was that there are multiple tools out there. For example, there was on one side there were tools like Datadog, and on the other side there were tools in open source around like Prometheus and the Grafana stack, right? But there was huge difference between what products like Datadog provided compared to what you can get through products available in open source, right? And that's where we really started looking into this. So when I was working there, we were looking to set up an observability system. We had some Prometheus set up, and we are using Elastic for logs. The problem we were facing was that uh, Elastic would break down at scale; like it doesn't scale very well, and Prometheus was not easy to set up. We're not able to find good people who can set this up properly, right? So what we thought was, hey, like, why isn't there an open source product out there which sort of does what Datadog does, have all metrics, traces, and logs in a single piece, and be able to help you go from one signal to other, right? For example, when you're debugging a problem, when there's a production issue out there, you want to find, hey, like this is a metric which has gone up. Then you want to know why has it gone up, dive deep down to the logs piece, right? So that was not as easy to do in the using just the open source stack. And we thought that because this is a product which is used by developers, there must be a much better open source product out there. So yeah, that's where we sort of started diving deeper into this product, this space, and we started with this idea that hey, can we build something which is has all the three signals in one place. And at that time, Open Telemetry was another project which was just getting started. So this is like early 2021. And so if you don't know, Open Telemetry is a open standard for instrumentation.
Mhm.
So you can instrument your applications with that and start sending data from our applications out there, right? So we started building our product with Open Telemetry as the core, where you can, like, we didn't invest on having own SDKs. From day one, we thought that, hey, uh, we should just support the open standard out there and build on top of that. And fortunately for us, Open Telemetry has also grown much more prominent in the community now. Many big companies are using it, and that has sort of given us a lot of tailwind on people adopting Signoz. And if anybody is trying today to use Open Telemetry, Signoz is sort of one of the most advanced product out there which natively supports Open Telemetry.
Interesting. So if somebody has not heard of Signos, how would you describe it at a high level? You just met somebody in the elevator and you've got to pitch them.
Sure. So we help developers monitor their applications and troubleshoot any problems. So if you have, for example, a web application and you want to understand how fast or slow are your customers seeing your website, you can help use Signoz and monitor your application, see what like the last 10 percentile of your using users are seeing your product to be, how slow or fast they're seeing. And you can use this data to use Signoz and data in Signoz to understand why people are seeing it slow, why are they seeing errors. Basically, you can understand your end user experience uh, through this product and also get more details if something is getting wrong on how to debug it.
Okay, so as we've seen the shift from APM to observability, monitoring to observability, answering different questions, and there's so many platforms out there. We've got traces, logs, and we need to have. You talked about the end user experience. Do you have the capabilities to do the synthetic end user scripting monitoring from the end user's perspective on the website in addition to these metrics, traces, and logs?
So as of now, you don't have a separate module for synthetic monitoring, but you can build dashboards for doing synthetic monitoring in Signos. For example, you can build dashboards where you can monitor a particular endpoint. And if some issues happen, you can start building alerts on top of it. So you can do that today, but we don't have a like separate model which many other products have for it. But that's something we may build out in the future.
Okay, interesting. And the reason I'm asking about that is because that's one of the things that I see in the commercial space is they're trying to get everything, which means even more data. It started with metrics, logs, and traces, but then you get the end user experience, and then now they're talking about developer experience, where it's continuous monitoring of the code itself. So continuous profiling is also added in there. So I'm thinking that this is eventually the ecosystem that you're going to be building with Signoz. This is where you're going, right?
Yeah. So the goal of the product is to help people solve issues faster, right? Because whenever the production issues happen, it's a hair in the fire problem. Teams are on their toes trying to fix the issue fast. And we need to give them all the data, one, but in a format which they can understand and quickly sort of reach to a conclusion. So that's sort of the goal of all products in this domain. And where we're starting is doing the metrics, logs, and traces piece first. That's where we are focusing currently and trying to get a great experience there. But once we have uh, made it much better and like much more polished, then we will go to integrate many more signals. For example, profile, you mentioned profiling, right? So open telemetry, which I mentioned earlier, is also introducing a new signal called profiling. It's still in the early stages of discussion, but that's where the community is going, that hey, like now we have logs, traces, and metrics, what else can we get to help developers solve things faster? So profiling, end user monitoring, those are naturally things which will come up. And as you mentioned, right, there's a whole trend of shifting things left, that rather than just seeing things only when they happen at the production level, can you see things earlier? Can
Mhm.
you, like at the time when you're writing the code, can you see what are the possible impacts it could have? And basically nip the issue in the bud, right? That if you're trying to publish something and then that potentially leads to some issue, can you catch that at the dev stage or in the staging stage, right? What people are doing today is running observability tools also in dev and UAT to understand what's happening there and do some sort of testing there. But I think going forward, one thing would happen is that you'll go uh, much closer to the developer and give them signals from observability tools that hey, like if you do this, this is probably going to happen. The one problem there is that it's tough to uh, replicate the production traffic which you get, or traffic production data which you get. So it's fundamentally a tough problem to replicate it very accurately, but it's what where the world is going, right?
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the term open source observability. There are some people, I won't talk about who they are, that have a little bit of a cynical view of open source. Some people would say, open source solutions like open telemetry, there is a common problem that everybody needs to solve. Let's chip in, create this solution that we can all ingest, but then let's build something on top of it that meets the needs of our customers or our particular company or whatever. So you could either take that open source project and build upon it to turn it into something that you want, or from a commercial aspect of it, you could create, for example, taking open telemetry information and visualizing it better than your competitor, or coming up with a way to make it more viable or more cheaper, a cheaper way to get that information. But there are some who say, well, just open source to me just means that it's free. So I'm just going to choose everything that's free, when we know that it's not free, because there are other costs involved in creating and maintaining and setting up, and the work that's involved in the creation of this stuff. So can you sort of clarify for our audience, when we talk about open source, that this is an open source project, what does that actually mean? And it is just, this is not a free version of a whatever observability platform. Why are you doing it in this way, I guess is my question.
Yeah, sure. So, see, open source is fundamentally that part of code, your code has a license which you can uh, tamper with, you can use it freely, edit it, and also say redistribute it, right? For example, Signoz, most of the code apart from the enterprise features are in the MIT license, and users are free to play with it, change it, and sort of make them edit it to use for their own for their own needs, right? But I guess having saying that open source is just free is a very limited view of what open source is. Uh, One of the most powerful thing which comes through open source is the community around it, right? So if you think about it, through open source, you can other people can learn how you're doing something. Other people can engage with the product, give you feedback, uh, run in their computers themselves, and then also see how something is getting done, right? For example, we learn a lot from what other people have done in their open source projects. The advantage between a closed source product but an open source product is that you can actually see the code and how, for example, how the tables are written. If you want to change it, you can, for example, create new APIs and build on top of that, right?
Mhm.
So so just saying that, hey, like open source is free is very limited, of course, because the code is available, you can run it and play with it. It's there, but it encourages a lot more innovation in that space overall. For example, you can build on top of it. For example, just to give an example, right? There are many tools coming up which today use Signoz as the backend and then use it to, for example, build trace test cases. For example, there's a product called Trace Test. They're a young startup,
Mhm.
and then they use open telemetry data to generate integration test cases. And they use Signoz to visualize it, right? And this is possible because everything Signoz is open source, open telemetry is an open standard, and then they're building something on top of it. There's another product which is building using LLM models to much like much better visualize LLM models through open telemetry, right? And then they use Signoz as the backend. So all this innovation is now so. If Signoz would not have been available, they would have to use some proprietary tool, which would have their another cost, and then they can't release it with in their docs, right? So if somebody wants to use that, they would have to have a subscription of another product. While if Signoz is the default backend, you can just start playing around with in your laptop. So I guess open source promotes the innovation a lot. A community gets built around it, and then, of course, as you mentioned, building software is not free, and there should be for the company which is building it, there should be some way to monetize it. And we are also open core, which is we have much a core of the product which is free and open source, but we also do have an enterprise offering where some features are restricted for companies which should be willing to pay for them, right? And we also have a hosted offering there. So I guess that's how we see the world. Open source fundamentally elevates the level of innovation, what people can learn from it, etc. But there also needs to be a way on how these companies or how people who are working on it can be sustainable. And we think that open core is a great way to do that.
Interesting. I know that there are going to be people who are going to look at Signos and they're currently paying for a commercial platform, and you and I both would have to agree building an observability package, no matter what you're doing, is a big thing to bite off, right? This is a big deal. So when you're talking about comparing to some of the bigger platforms that are out there, there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle to make it all work and to get those visualizations. If somebody looks at this and says, "Oh, well, this is an alternative for me," it's got to be more than just about saving money, because we've seen reports in the last year about how much money people are actually spending on some of these observability platforms, and it's some of the costs are actually ridiculous. However, to play devil's advocate, the commercial offerings may say, well, hold on a second. Are they getting value out of that cost? Are they actually saving or making more money because of paying for that? So there could be an argument for that. What do you say to that? And what is your, I guess, your value proposition to say we're not just an alternative for them just because of it's a cost savings, but we have this other viable reason for you potentially switching over? What would that be?
Yeah, I guess there are a few things which are like unique to Signal. So, for example, one, we are natively based on open telemetry. Uh, because we don't support any other SDK, for example, just taking an example, Datadog has their own SDKs, right? So fundamentally, they're not as incentivized to work on supporting open telemetry. While Signoz, because we are natively based on open telemetry, we don't support any other SDK. Our support and features are much better there, right? So if somebody today wants to adopt open telemetry, what's the product they should go to? I think Signoz stands a great chance there, right? So being open native telemetry first. Second is we are built on ClickHouse, which is a columnar data store. So it's the next gen data store compared to, for example, Elastic, which is was built 10 years back, right? So and we have published benchmarks on this that how Elastic compares to, for example, in the logs product, how Elastic compares to ClickHouse, and that makes you much more that makes Signos much more performant compared to older generation products, and also it gives us like much better querying abilities on analytics, because if you think about it, observability is fundamentally a analytics use case, right? You want to find that needle in the haystack. So, using a data store which is fundamentally geared for analytics type of use cases, it provides much better user experience for the customers. And third is that Signos can be thought as a like complete lifecycle product, right? For example, uh, the way we typically see companies, generally companies are very when companies are very early, there are one two people, they just want to use an open source product and want to start with it, right? Once they start scaling, you can just start using cloud hosted product and you just go ahead with it because hey, we want to scale fast and go with it. I don't want to invest on engineering, right? But as the company matures, they want to move things more in-house. They want to host things in the cloud in themselves because sometimes a cloud becomes very costly for them. And at that scale, you want to run things themselves and manage themselves, and sometimes also because of privacy and considerations, right? So Signos can offer companies all these three stages. If you're just early stage startup, you can just trying things out. You can just start with open source, right? You don't need to pay us money. You don't have probably advanced use cases, etc. If you are seeing PMF, if you want to scale fast, you use our cloud hosted product and just use it. You don't need to worry about scaling the product, how to manage it, etc. And if you have sort of starting to grow much bigger and are at a scale now where you want to keep things in house, have teams of engineers who can handle things, you can just use the Signos Enterprise Edition or just host Signos themselves, right? So the alternative world would have been that hey, like I start with open source tool like Prometheus, where you just set up things when you're very early, then you use a SaaS product, and then maybe just again set up some build something in house. So we sort of take care of the whole complete life cycle of a company, and the fundamental instrumentation remains the same. And if you're instrumented with open telemetry, just go there, right? So yeah, so it's a tool which we think of as something which users at different stage of their journey can use, and we have offerings for people to at each stage. So just to recap, being OpenTelemetry native, using modern data stores which are more suited for this use case, and then being able to serve companies across the life cycle.
Awesome. Awesome. Great response, by the way. Let's talk a little bit about your fundraising here that you've been able to accomplish. I saw the announcement come out. This has been about, I guess, a few weeks ago. And I wanted to have you on the show way before that, but I think this is pretty big news. Can you talk about this and how this all came about and what it means for the future of your product?
Yeah, sure. So I think we're seeing good traction in our product and lots of interest from the developer community. So naturally, some of the investors reached out to us. One of the lead investors in this round is Signal Fire. So they approached us. We liked them, and we thought that hey, like, can we use external capital to make this product much better and like build something better for the community, right? So that's where we are. We have raised capital now and excited about what we can do further. I think the key few things which we want to focus on in the next 12 to 18 months is to uh, tie up that story of having an integrated experience between traces, metrics, and logs, how people can inherently and correlate across them much easily. I think the second piece would be to make things more automated. I think fundamentally we see that today most of the observability is dashboard based, right? Like you create dashboard for this, dashboard for that. We think the future would be to make it more workflow based, where people are guided on what, hey, this is the issue which has come up, and then this is the step which you have to take to solve it, rather than they going to see dashboards and um trying to understand like what they should monitor, because we have all the data underneath, right? We have all the traces data, we have logs data, we have metrics data. Can we analyze that and surface signals to the user, right? And provide them a workflow that, hey, this is the signal which you are seeing. Can you dive deeper into this? And this is where you need to dive deeper into. And this is probably the five causes which are possible. There is much more which can be done in this space, and I think that's where we'll invest a lot heavily on. This would also need more advanced machine learning, and not to say AI, but like more advanced analytics on top of what's data we are seeing, and surface those insights upfront to users, right? So that's the another broad direction we are going. And the third piece is making our product like much more featured for open telemetry native users, right? As I mentioned, we use OpenTelemetry as the native SDK, and we think that is the future of observability. More and more company will start with OpenTelemetry now, and we are already seeing even early stage startups starting to use OpenTelemetry because they know what are the problems they face if they start with like a vendor SDK and then they have to later switch out and have problems around that, right? So how do we make Signoz the best product for open telemetry? We already have some features and some other things in pipeline, but can we leverage more features of this data format and the standard data format which open telemetry has come up and surface more things to users, right? And just for an example, today we have an exceptions product where users can send data with exceptions data with their traces. And in Signoz, you can see that exceptions data in a separate tab and directly see those exceptions in context of the traces, right? So that is something which I have not seen other products have. And that's possible because we are leveraging directly the data format which OpenTelemetry provides. So we want to bring all such new features and new possibilities which are there because of OpenTelemetry to our users and customers. And that is sort of the third piece where we'll invest more on. So being more OpenTelemetry native, being more workflow oriented, and basically giving more intelligence to the users upfront. And then third is tying these three signals together, because we still see a lot of opportunities in just signals being desperate and like users not utilizing all the data they have. So how can that be made much better?
Tell me about the new Signoz Cloud offering that you have.
Yeah, sure. So we recently launched our managed cloud offering where instead of users needing to run Signos, they can just sign up to Signos Cloud and start using it. Essentially, this was triggered because a lot of companies were and our users were asking that, hey, like I like this product, but I don't have capability to run this, or like I don't have engineers to run it. Can I just get something which I can use? So that's the feedback we took from the community, and then we launched this cloud product. So it's already live, and um, yeah, uh, excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, it seems like this is going very fast. You're taking the product to new places. It seems like every week I'm seeing something new about this. So, if somebody wants to find out more about Signos, where can they go?
Yeah, I think the best place would be our website, signoz.io, signoz.io, and our GitHub repo, which is github.com/signoz/signoz.
Awesome. We'll make sure that we share the links on the show notes as well as on the YouTube video text as well. So, thank you so much for being on the show today, and we hope to have you back. I'll be watching for future announcements and what you do with the product.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Had a great chat.
So, what do you think about the product and what do you think about the show? I'd like to hear your feedback about both. You can reach me on most social media platforms. If you scan that QR code, it will take you to my bio page, which will show you various ways that you can get in touch with me on social media. But you can also send me an email to heyscott@smcjournal.com and would love to hear from you. What did you think about this particular episode? If you liked it, why not click that button that says, "Hey, Scott, I liked it, and I want to subscribe to your YouTube channel because you're doing an awesome job." That would really help me out a lot. We got to train that YouTube algorithm together, folks. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Until next time, this is Scott Moore saying we'll see you next time. Bye bye.